What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today we have a incredible Arc Warlock build. It's my first Arc Warlock build of the season actually, and it is looking forward to next season. Next season we're going to be having some great buffs to a lot of our Arc subclasses, and this one, once we hit that, will absolutely perform to an incredibly high level. We already have it going crazy in some pretty challenging content. In the background gameplay here, I'm sure you can see these waves of ads just do not stand a chance. Before we get into this build though, go ahead, down below this video, absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button. Stick around at the end of the video for an original meme, and without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so let's go and break this build down. This is very special. This build is an ad clear build, it totally is. However, it is like no other ad clear build you will ever see right now in the game. So if we can break this down, if you can follow all the way along, this will be one of the most important builds to have in your loadout, ready at your fingertips through a lot of content. We're going to go through some pretty difficult content here and show that it still works. It still is very functional. So let's break it down real quick. The main weapon we're using here is Delicate Tomb. I don't have the catalyst unlocked, but it just makes it so much better if you can have it unlocked. It basically gives it subsistence. Every time you get a kill, you get a little bit of your ammo back into your magazine. The main intrinsic trait is Trader's Vessel. Fires a wide horizontal spread when shot from the hip. Final blows with this weapon have a chance to generate ionic traces. Powerful foes and opposing guardians always generate ionic traces. Ionic traces are the key to this build. Pay attention anytime you see something about an ionic trace. Pay attention to how it's working. We also have the other perk just in this weapon here, Tempest Cascade. Collecting an ionic trace overcharges this weapon and making the next shot jolt on hit. So that is very important as well. We're going to be jolting so much. We're going to be getting a ton of ionic traces, and this is what really makes it special. Pairing that weapon with the Fallen Sunstar for Arc Warlock here. The perk on this is called Ionic Conductor. Ionic traces you create move faster and grant you additional ability energy. Nearby allies also gain ability energy when you collect ionic traces. And this is really what makes it special. This is what makes it like no other build in the game. When you get an ionic trace, it will give you 25% of your cooldown for your grenade, your melee, and 30% for your class ability all at once. One of those will give you 25% of those abilities and 30% of your class ability energy. And we're going to be pairing this with some absolutely insane fragments here. So first off, let's talk about our aspects. We're using the Arc Soul. Casting your riff, create an Arc Soul, and when you're amplified, it's going to make your Arc Soul shoot way faster. I believe it just essentially doubles the output of the damage that the Arc Soul can give. The Electrostatic Mind. Defeating targets with Arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an ionic trace. Collecting an ionic trace makes you amplified. So we want to be amplified as much as possible. We are going to be jolting targets, and we are actually going to be blinding quite a lot of targets. So tons of the things we're about to do with our fragments here are going to jolt and blind targets, giving us, sometimes firing one shot will give us 3 of our ionic traces in one. So we'll see that in the gameplay here, but first let's go through these fragments here. Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets. Boom, that's an instant free 25% of all those abilities or more for the class ability. When we're going to jolt it, it's going to create an ionic trace. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace with the Spark of Discharge here. So just any arc weapon final blow, that's going to increase with our Delicate Tomb. There is an intrinsic extra chance to create an ionic trace. So we're just giving that a bonus there to just, for no reason, give us an extra trace. That's going to just keep giving us more and more of those ability energies we need. Spark of Beacons. While you're amplified, your arc special weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. So getting a kill with our Delicate Tomb is going to blind the enemies around us. We'll be amplified already because we're going to be getting a lot of those ionic traces. So we're going to be able to chain blinding and jolt throughout basically any wave of enemies that are going to come through us. They're not going to be able to see, and they're going to be jolted, and when you kill one of them, they should give you 2 ionic traces. The last one, we do have Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target creates an ionic trace. I don't think we have to talk about why that is special. Lastly, before we head into the actual content here, I do want to mention with the Fallen Sunstar, since we are getting 25% for our melee and grenade and 30% for our class ability per ionic trace, any of our allies that are in fairly close proximity to us, so just, you know, in roughly the same damage room or wave of adds, you know, somewhere around us, if we get ionic traces, they're going to get 10% energy for all of their abilities as well. So that is why it is like no other. It is going to support your allies. They nerfed the Heart of Inmost Light for Titans recently, so they're not getting so much ability energy back. You can put this on, roll in with one of your Arc Titan friends or just any Titan, and they're going to be able to essentially do what they were doing before that. You're going to be able to support them through that, and that is why this is so impressive. Let's check out some of this more challenging gameplay and look at just how well it performs. It is actually stunning. Alright, so now that we got that breakdown out of the way, let's look at some of the actual properties of this build and just what makes it really special in actual gameplay here. So we are actually doing a battleground here on the higher difficulty. So, and it's just myself and a clanmate. We're going through this content just to see how difficult it is with 2, and let me tell you, we probably would not have made it without this build. So like I said, this build is going to center around getting as many ionic traces as you possibly can, and we have it set up so that pretty much any of our abilities here are going to be able to give us ionic traces. Throwing a grenade is going to give us an ionic trace, and I think from that one right there we just saw, that gave us 2, and then some random one chain lightning out somewhere else, and you can really see there are just tons of ionic traces coming out. You don't even know where they're coming from. But the main way that we are going to try and get these ionic traces to generate for us are from using our Delicate Tomb fusion rifle here. So pretty much anytime we get amplified, we're going to be able to blind all the targets around a target that we defeat, which then will allow us to create an ionic trace the next time that we defeat any of those targets. Getting a kill and collecting an ionic trace with the Delicate Tomb will activate our Tempest Cascade, allowing us to chain lightning to any of the enemies that are around a target we're going to be hitting. So that will really ramp up our ability to ad clear. Huge clears of waves. There are tons of ads coming at us in this particular room here, especially once we move up to the next area. And with all of our aspects and fragments working together to allow us to jolt and blind so many targets, you'll see we will be able to generate off of one shot of the Delicate Tomb, sometimes 3 or 4 different ionic traces. Each of those are going to come to us and give us 25% of our ability energy, which is absolutely huge. It's humongous. You're going to be able to have so much ability uptime. No other build out there right now is allowing you to give yourself the ability uptime that this one does, as well as give any of your teammates, allies, get 10% per ionic trace that you generate as well. So anytime you are generating those, you'll see just randomly, not really trying too hard to get any to actually pop out. I'm already up at, I think, 6 or 8 ionic traces in this one area without really doing too much, and you're just throwing out so many abilities. I threw my grenade, I already have it back. It's crazy. And a lot of the times, even when I don't have ammo for my Delicate Tomb, and I'm using the Immortal, pretty good roll on that one, and if I'm using that and I have my Arc Buddy up, sometimes I'll get an ionic trace just off the Arc Buddy, just off of the Arc Buddy shooting out and killing any of the random enemies or finishing them off while I'm using my SMG. The synergy here is insane. You don't have to use the SMG, you can use any other weapon that you want, but it's going to perform so well. Right there, I just got 4 or 5 ionic traces from one area of ads. There were only 4 ads there. We're getting just crazy amounts of ability energy back. That's all worth so much to you and your fire team. This is something for myself and to all of my teammates that I'm playing with. To all of you out there, pay attention to this build. Keep it in your back pocket for next season. They are making some crazy adjustments to our arc subclasses and things like that, so we're going to have some really, really great synergies there with all the other classes, Titan, Warlock, all that stuff. Will have some really great ways to support each other, and this very well could be one of the meta loadouts for keeping your teammates stocked up with all of their broken abilities, all of their builds, because they're not going to be able to necessarily nerf the amount of energy that they're getting from these ionic traces. That's probably not something they're going to worry about, the 10% energy for your allies on there. They're just going to worry about nerfing any of the abilities that your allies are using and the recharge times. And I mean, just check out, you're getting so many of these ionic traces. 10 of those is almost nothing to you. You're going to be giving your allies so much ability energy. Alright Guardians, that's going to have to be all for me for now. Let's go ahead and throw that meme up on the screen. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until next time, be without form, swift as lightning.